right, let's go ahead and check to see who's all here. Okay, looks like you guys can all, or you all can hear me. I eventually might learn to say that right. So what I wanted to do was today go over. If you look in the announcements channel, I've gone ahead and decided how we're going to move forward with our quizzes and exam and final projects. Decided a final project will work better in this class than just having an exam and then another final exam. So we'll have a quiz over chapter 7 and 8 on the 30th. That's a week from today. That's Tuesday. 7 and 8 on the 30th. Quiz over chapters 9 and 10 on December 7th. And then we'll have our exam 2, which will be a cumulative, focusing on chapters 7 through 10 on December 9th. And then the final project, which will be team-based, and we'll go into that here a little bit more, will be end of the final exam period, December 14th at 7:30. And I wanted to go over how they display this chart, because I noticed on mobile this displays just pitifully. So I wanted to just go over that with you so you know how to read this chart here. It's quite simple once you are familiar with it, but if your class is on Monday and Wednesday, or if your class is on Tuesday and Thursday, the chart is in two separate sets. Honestly, they should be separated, but the way they are is our class is Tuesday and Thursday, starting at 5:10. So therefore, our exam is on the 14th, which is a Tuesday, from 5:30 to 7:30. So that's why our final exam project, or final project, will be due at 19:30, which is 7:30 p.m. Does that make sense to everybody so far? Shouldn't be too terribly difficult. So let's say you had a Monday, Wednesday class at 1 o'clock. For example, you would have the 1 o'clock class, the exam would be on Friday the 17th from 10:30 to 12:30. Pretty straightforward. You just need to know that this half and this half are basically two entirely separate charts. Okay. So also covering about chapters 7 through 10, we've basically covered most of that material already in discussion. So chapter 7 is just arrays and array lists. Chapter 8 is just classes. Chapter 9 is interfaces, and chapter 10 is polymorphism and interfaces. So these are topics that we have. What I ended up doing is, while we were teaching material earlier in the semester, I peppered in most of this material in these chapters to supplement the order in which I felt it was best to present that. But it's good to go through and make sure you read about the nuances, things like private constructors, which we talked about, but make sure you get the in-depth explanations, things of that nature. So I hope that makes sense. And then the second exam will be, like I said, cumulative. or accumulative. I think it's accumulative. Anyways, it'll be accumulative, and but it will focus mostly on the newer chapters, just so that we can prove that you have mastery over the material. And then the final exams, we'll talk about that here in a little bit, or final projects, I should say. We're going to talk more about that. I had been discussing how I was going to make the graph class from this web page an assignment, and I never actually gave it out because I wasn't super happy with the depth of the material that we were going to cover in it. So what I've decided to do, and I assume most of you are going to be happy about this, is just have a final project instead of a final exam. That should make it easier for you. And what that also does is it increases a little bit of the amount of work that you're going to have to do, cooperation among your teammates, but will end up lowering the overall amount of code that you'll have to produce. And I think that is a good balance for this class. That way you get some experience working on a project in a team in a relatively straightforward example, which I'm already providing you the majority of the source code. So it's not like you need to figure out how this code works, but you'll need to figure out how are you going to refactor it, if any, things along that nature to make it work the way in which you want. So I will go ahead and prepare the formal written explanation for this. Essentially what it's going to be is you are going to have a feature that reads out a graph. Where's the code? Yeah, here it is. So here's a list of edges. You're going to have to save this to a file and be able to load it from a file. And to do that, I'll give you a hint. The algorithms provided, such as depth first, or possibly breadth first, give you a little mystery in that, will be able to make that as clear as possible. The hint would be these last pictures. Look at the order in which these are visited. Notice depth first goes out of order. Breadth first, and come down here, ends up in order. So maybe breadth first might be easier to implement. And then your goal as a team will be to divvy up the work and then try to make your code as high quality as possible. And I will detail exactly what I mean by that. But again, in general, that means well documented, extensible, being able to implement different algorithms, whether they be breadth first or depth first. Having a method of interaction with the program so that you can interact with the program and tell it if you want to search it breadth first or depth first and select which one you want, and things along that nature. I think this is pretty straightforward and pretty doable, and we're going to have, since we have 11 in the class, and I'll make sure I'll double check on that, there will be two teams of, I think it would be 2 teams of 4 and 1 team of 3. Or we can split it. I think that's the best way to do that. And I will randomly assign those, and participation will be heavily weighted and graded for this assignment. So hopefully that will prevent anybody from not keeping up their portion of the work. Are there any questions about all of this so far? It's pretty straightforward. I've been thinking about this a lot because essentially we're done with the instruction for this course of the base material. And at this point, I just want to get practice and proving your level of mastery of the concepts and skills that we wanted to cover. So hence why a lot of small quizzes, the exam, and then this final project. Kind of tail heavy, I know. I end up doing that because, unfortunately, it seems to be a pattern, but I want to make sure I spend enough time teaching the basics and foundations for these topics up front so that you can more easily and quickly learn the harder material later. And it's not like classes and interfaces are actually all that difficult. So I don't expect anybody to have a terribly difficult time with the quizzes and exams. And the project might be a new experience for some of you, but shouldn't be all that difficult either. Are there any questions about that? I think this is a good balance. That way, in case anybody had any difficulty with getting the reading and writing of the graph data, them individually, it wouldn't prevent them from ending up being able to have that code working. Because realistically, one of the most important things, I don't want to exaggerate or be hyperbolic, but sometimes and often 50% of the battle is just getting the application up and running and getting input and output working. Once you have that working, a lot of the other nuances you can automate, test, and speed up a lot quickly. So I think this is a good balance of we have a spy in our general random channel. Just another student that was from a previous course of mine. But I think this is pretty straightforward and should provide a good balancing of the course material for everyone. And team sizes, even if I assigned you all to one team, it's only 11 members. So splitting it up to 2 or 3 total teams, I'll figure out exactly after I look at the roster. And I'll let you know the the team assignments. I don't think would be terrible, but I think that should be about it. I just wanted to cover all of that material, logistics, basically, order of operations. Oh, Kyle joined with a different account. Oh, that's fine. Kyle. We were just talking about order of operations of how we're going to proceed with the rest of the semester. There's a post in announcements with specifics of the 2 remaining quizzes and the second exam, and then we're going to have a final project as a team project. And then today, what I'm going to do is just give you all time to review the code here. You'll need to have graph implemented. You'll need to have breadth first and depth first working, which honestly shouldn't take that long because you literally already have the code. And then we'll dive into some more advanced topics over the remaining sessions of the course. I did want to cover briefly new theories and practices on exception handling. Exception handling, the way I was taught when I took this course versus modern thinking on it has evolved, so we'll talk about that. And then we've already covered regular expression enough as I feel is significant for this course, which is I think that's chapter 14. So that would cover that's 14. That's what I'm about to get to. I'm not going to require you to do anything in Android Studio, but I will be showing you some sample projects in Android Studio over the remainder of the course. Today, I'm just mainly I'm being realistic and giving you all time to read the chapters. Because I know this week is hectic with everybody traveling for Thanksgiving or whatever the case may be. So I want to be very respectful of your time, etc., etc., etc. But yeah, so we will talk about chapters 11 and 14, and a little bit of 16, which is generics, but you won't be required to for those on quizzes or exams. That's just additional content I want to cover for you to have. Oh, is that? Yeah, that is due tonight at midnight, isn't it? I had not thought about the timing of that. Would people appreciate longer to work on that? Okay, everybody's saying no, so we'll go ahead and no. Everybody is saying yes, so I'll go ahead and extend that. Saturday at midnight? How does that sound? Actually, we'll just go Sunday at this point. I mean, what's one more day? Sunday at midnight. Does that seem good for everyone? Okay. Do you take your time with that and try to make sure you understand these concepts? If you don't, message me. I'm perfectly fine with answering questions. Ask some of the other students. I've answered at like 4 a.m. So, except the one who woke me up at 5 a.m. and that kept me from going back to sleep. That was a little bit much, but that wasn't their fault. Yeah, if this is a very open-ended thing, that's why I was like 2 pages, and if just the concepts would cover 2 pages. If you have 6 with a reference, if you're happy with it, that's fine. But this is one of those assignments, the more you put into it, the more you'll end up getting out of it in the long run. Being able to compare and contrast different implementations or technologies is actually one of the most important skill sets that anybody in computer science or IT or any related field will possess. So that's why I gave you a fair amount of time, and the 3 are relatively similar, but they have enough differences to where you can still compare and contrast them. So, yeah, I'll go ahead and change that due dates as soon as we get off of here. Sunday at midnight, or 11:59, end of day, whatever. And Go ahead and make sure that you've read chapters 7 through 10, and that you're prepared for the quizzes. And the exam. They're just like the other one. I'm not designing them to trick anybody or confuse anybody, but we want to prove that you have basic mastery of these concepts, essentially. So, and I do feel that everybody has done quite well in this course. Everybody is producing fairly high-level content, so I'm not worried about that. So, hopefully, we'll continue to see that, and everything going forward, you'll be, hopefully, my goal, and I think I've said this, I'm pretty sure I have, is to prepare you better for upcoming courses than I felt I was when I took this course. I learned a lot, but I didn't understand how to apply it until much later. So that's why I'm trying to be more self-reflective during the process of this course. The timing and the scheduling has been a little wonky, and I admit that, but I think you've all learned and have done pretty well so far. So I think it's a good balance. But if there's no further questions, I'll go ahead and let you all head out, and I will update the assignment. It might be a little bit later this evening, depends. But I'll update the assignment. That'll be Sunday at midnight. And the quizzes and whatnot, etc., will go to. I know one student wanted me to work on an honors project. If you can send me that email, I can look at that, and we can hopefully get that straightened out if you were still looking to do that. If not, that's fine too. Whatever is best for you. Otherwise, I'll let you guys, or let you all. I mean, my mom still says Warsh, despite the fact she was born here in Youngstown. She just spent a couple of years in North Carolina before I was born. Okay. I'll look through my email and make sure. It might I might not have seen it, but regardless, everybody else who's not doing honors, we're good to go, and you should be pretty prepared from this course for your upcoming courses, because this course is a prerequisite for your future courses. So I feel like we're sitting pretty right now. And at the remainder of the class sessions, I'll just reinforce these topics. Like I said, we'll go over some Android. I didn't feel like today would be a good day. There's not everybody here because of Thanksgiving, and people want to, go do holiday stuff. So we'll push that off. We'll talk about that. And then I think we should be good to go. All right, everyone. We'll end here, and you can have a good evening. Have a safe Thanksgiving. Travel is going to be up. So is the weather. The weather is going to hit us atrociously, apparently. So stay safe and be careful out there and study hard. And we'll go from there. Y'all come back now. You hear?